Well, thank you for having me. I head the Technological and Economic International Affairs area for the government of El Salvador. I work specifically in the Trade and Commerce Secretariat. And basically that means that I have to identify investment opportunities as they relate to Bitcoin or to any crypto or blockchain project. And I've been working with a lot of the companies that have come into El Salvador ever since the law took effect. A lot of people have told us that we should have readopted el colón, which used to be our currency up until 2001. Instead of the US dollar, people were using colones. However, that would have been going into the past. We wanted to go into the future, and the future means cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin. And it was a no-brainer, I think, for the president to think that with the adoption of Bitcoin, he could have done many things, including the bonds, the Volcano bonds that he's working on, and so many other things, allowing people who are unbanked, that don't have a bank account, that basically that translates into about 70% of Salvadorians, allowing them to have access to digital money, to not only do transactions with Bitcoin, but also to save and to invest. And I think that's a game changer for any country. Well, in fact, since 2001, El Salvador hasn't been able to print money because we use the US dollar. So we don't have the power to print money. And even if we had the power right now to do it, I think it makes sense to see what is going on, what is happening around us, what is happening in the world. The fact that we are suffering from inflation in many countries, I mean, worldwide, because countries are just printing money, lots of money, and they're not really handling the issues that we're going through. So the idea of printing money, more and more money, is just a traditional way from the banking system, and it hasn't really fixed anything in years, ever since perhaps the banking system initiated. So we don't see it as a solution. The solution is not to print more money. The solution is really to adopt the future. I think, like any other adoption of anything, education is key. And I know that we are working really hard in order for the population to become more educated when it comes to using Bitcoin. It's not just the government's responsibility to educate the Salvadorian population. We've seen that a lot of the companies that have come to invest in El Salvador, they are taking to task that, and they're educating different segments of the population. Academia as well, they have come out with careers now on crypto, or workshops, or specializations, So it's government, private sector, and academia, and everybody's helping, trying to educate as many Salvadorians as possible. That could be a challenge. However, we're tackling it. Well, El Zonte, as well as there's another area called Bitcoin City, El Salvador. That's what it's called. And that area started before El Zonte, and people don't know about that. It's in the state of Sonsonate. And those two areas are unusual because their populations have been using Bitcoin for about 3 years now. And obviously they are more educated about the cryptocurrency. They know how to do a transaction. Lightning, they use the Lightning Network. They're fine, like you said. However, in the capital city, if you go into a McDonald's, if you go into Starbucks, if you go into any other store, let's say a department store, and you want to buy a scarf, you want to buy shoes, you can buy those items with Bitcoin. And I think people are getting the hang of it. That means that they're getting little by little educated. How do you deal with the volatility? It is the government's plan to launch a stable coin, which will alleviate the volatility. It's how Bitcoin works. And part of the education is to let people know that happens with Bitcoin. At the same time that right now is, I believe it was 38 last time I checked last night. Tomorrow it can go up to 40, and then the next day it can go up to 60. So it's not really, yes, there's a high volatility, but at the same time, there are perks, meaning if people invest, if people save money in Bitcoin, they know that, if they save Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is money, then they know that their income can increase. It's not just going to go down, it's also going to go up. So it's a matter of education, I think. The president announced that during the celebration at the end of the Bitcoin conferences, Bitcoin Week that we had in November. We were at the beach and he announced a few different things, including the Volcano bonds. And I know that our teams are working on the stablecoin as well as the Volcano bonds, and there is not necessarily that much public info that we can share at this point. What I can tell you is that now in February, the Legislative Assembly is going to vote on approving 20 different laws that pertain to not only to the Volcano bonds, but also to the residency status and how that's going to work out for people who actually want to move to El Salvador. We have a lot of people, a lot of investors that have come and bought homes already. They moved with their families. It's crazy what's happening. The migration is crazy and it's real. We don't have numbers right now on the number of people that have moved. But what I can tell you is that we have about between 200 and 300 companies that we know have incorporated because of Bitcoin. They have come from other countries. They have opened a Salvadorian company now, like a subsidiary, right? And it's about 200 to 300. But I can tell you that we have people who have migrated to our country and have not only opened offices, but have bought property. People from Singapore, Canada, the United States, Europe, even from Africa, and obviously from some other countries in Latin America. So for us, it's crazy. It's crazy to be seeing this. Bitcoin is a legal tender in El Salvador. And that means that any single bank in the country has to take Bitcoin. So we haven't had an issue where, let's say, a customer goes into a bank and the bank refuses to use it. It's a legal tender and they have to use it. Let's say if I had $10 million in fiat and I wanted to transfer that, they would ask me, where is this money coming from, right? And they have the right to ask that question in the traditional banking system. I don't think that we have had that issue yet when someone comes with, 5 or 10 Bitcoins and they want to transfer it to a bank. We haven't had that issue. But I know that if we had a problem, if a customer had a problem and where they didn't want to take their Bitcoins or they were asking too many questions as opposed to do it in a DeFi way, then we would know about it, or the customer, especially now in social media, the customer will speak up, but that hasn't happened yet. We're not. We're not dangerous. What we're trying to do is to really adapt ourselves to the changes in the world right now, to the future. The future is digital. Web 3.0 is already here. I was about to say it's coming up. No, it's already here. And if we or any other country doesn't adapt to the changes, then we're going to be behind. We're going to be slacking, and not working on behalf of our people. And that's what we're trying to do. People can say all sorts of things. They can say that that the Volcano bonds won't work, but we know that they will. I think it was a very innovative idea, like you said, and I don't think anybody was expecting, to hear about Volcano bonds, and just the fact that El Salvador is mining with volcanoes. I mean, that's, that should blow your mind, right? So now when we think about volcano bonds and the fact that a lot of people already have committed to purchasing, to buying these bonds, we know that the 20 laws that Congress is supposed to pass, supposed to vote on, are coming up in the next few weeks, now in February. That's when we will know when they will be available for people to buy. And we also know that every time we talk about Bitcoin, we also know that Bitcoin is just the tipping point. It's just the beginning for El Salvador. We're looking into the creation of DAOs, allowing, having a law that can allow people to create DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, as well as we know that we're moving towards DeFi, inevitably. It's not just Bitcoin. It's really decentralized finances and decentralized many other things. In regards to maybe other coins, it's too early. It's too premature to say that. But when I say DeFi, I mean the use of blockchain and a law that allows us to, for instance, create digital identity for our citizens, especially in the areas of health and education. We don't want to be carrying around a card, a plastic card, like an ID, right? We want to have a digital identity where if I go to the doctor in this state and then I happen to have an emergency 400 kilometers away, any doctor on that site can also check my record, my health record, digitally, without me having to have papers. We want to get rid of papers, and that can only be achieved with blockchain. No, and yes, I do know about that concept, and it's something that our teams have talked about. But I think there is so much going on that we have to start with perhaps, and I'm just making an assumption here, that the way we are going to adopt digital identity, for instance, perhaps at the beginning is going to be in a centralized way until we can move towards decentralization, because it will be built on the blockchain. But what you're talking about would absolutely be revolutionary. It would show that how democracy works, especially now in the future, in using Web 3.0. Or in this case, in the metaverse. I mean, it's definitely something that we would aspire to. It's real Bitcoin. I don't know where that's coming from. I think the wallet has had a few issues, technical issues, right? I know that the teams have been working, the programmers and developers have been working on fixing the bugs, on making it more easier, I guess, to be used. But not sure why people are saying that what the wallets have is not Bitcoin. It is obviously Bitcoin. A few weeks ago, we had a senator from Mexico come to visit us, and she had strategic meetings with the government and private sector and academia, and she wanted to learn about how El Salvador adopted Bitcoin. And the reason why she wanted to learn is because she is from the state of Nuevo León in Mexico, and Nuevo León, Monterrey, happens to be fintech. It's all about fintech, and it's a very industrialized state. They are the Barcelona of Spain, of Mexico in this case. It's like they could, if they were to separate from Mexico, they will be fine because they generate a lot of the GDP for Mexico. So they're very advanced compared to the rest of Mexico. And she came to learn. So we are in contact with some Mexican officials who are pro Bitcoin, who are pro blockchain. My understanding is that she's interested in launching her re-election campaign on the use of blockchain, which is fantastic, and it's a woman who's doing it. There are other officials, public officials in Paraguay, in other countries who have knocked on our door, and they're also asking questions and want to know, and they want to come and visit. And it's great. It's great to have all this support from other public officials in other countries. I don't know who's going to be next. I just know that it might not necessarily be a country. It can be a municipality like Arizona or a state, in this case. Arizona in the United States, a congresswoman, actually a senator, wrote a proposal, a law proposal for Bitcoin to be adopted in that state. So if it happens, imagine it would be like, in a way, like what happened with marijuana, with cannabis in the States. Only a few states adopted it, but it's not legal at the federal level. So it might be the same thing that is going to be happening in the United States. Want to invest in Bitcoin, on blockchain. I think there's a lot of room for mining in El Salvador. As you know, our government is already mining with geothermal energy from a volcano, which is fantastic. But there is a lot of room, especially for green mining. And I think what Sebastian is doing is very innovative. We welcome anybody and everybody who wants to come and mine, because it's not just Bitcoin City. We have 170 volcanoes in this tiny country, 170. So there's a lot of room for people who want to come and mine. That's a question that only the president could answer, because it really depends. I mean, he's been buying on the dip. And so we have to see what happens with the price of Bitcoin. But I wouldn't be able to tell you if he's going to buy in one time.
Si vous aimez ces vidéos, abonnez-vous et pensez bien à cliquer sur la cloche pour être notifié des prochains épisodes. Et pour recevoir le guide crypto de A à Z, inscrivez-vous ici. On vous explique tout pour les débutants comme pour les confirmés.